Welcome to Behind the Backline, the podcast where we chat with merchants, brands, and industry professionals in the musical instrument, pro audio, and event technology space about their products, services, industry trends, stories, and more. Join us now as we dig into the stories behind our favorite backline gear.
Welcome to episode 27 of Behind the Backline. I'm Matt Jacoby of Octave Media, and today I am talking with Josh Allen of INDeDrum Lab. Thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to get a chance to meet you and learn a little bit about INDeDrum's backstory. So let's start off by having you tell us a little bit about who you are and what INDeDrum Lab does.
Yeah, well, I'm, as we said, I'm Josh Allen. I started INDeDrum Lab about 3 years ago, basically just with the goal of building a better drum company. I had worked for Ludwig for about 5 years before I started here, and just saw a lot of opportunity for how things could be done differently. So I left and started this thing up, and I've been going on about 3 years now.
Awesome. That sounds pretty, I won't say ballsy, but, to have that kind of see those kinds of observations at a brand as legendary as Ludwig, to be able to find things that they could be improving upon and take them out and do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the legacy was kind of one of the biggest detriments for me, in that, they've existed so long doing a certain thing, and to try to innovate there is kind of a challenge.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I suppose they have a story to tell and stick with and didn't want to move much. I suppose that makes sense now that you put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, cool. So tell us a little bit about, I know the product line is called INDe, and for people who aren't seeing it's written, it's INDe. Tell us a little bit about the product line.
Yeah, well, we offer a full line of drums and snare drums, drum kits, as well as some components that go into making them. Basically, they're all designed, every component from the ground up, with shell resonance in mind. We basically just design around some basic acoustic principles, in that low mass is better. We don't want acoustically dead materials, and we try to keep the vibrational energy within a drum. And then the components, we sell like strainers and suspension brackets that people use to upgrade their existing drums, or build drums with if they happen to be a builder.
Cool. And I see you guys focus more on the simplicity of the drum, like the thinner shells and the lightweight material. What kind of things set your materials apart from other people's gear, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, basically we start with kind of the basic principles of how sound works, and watch or look at how vibrational energy goes through a drum. So essentially you're putting a certain amount of energy into a drum head when you hit it with a stick, and it's up to the drum designer to figure out what to do with it. So low mass is a key for us, both in our shells and components, and that's basically just off the simple idea that if you're putting a certain amount of energy into a drum, the less mass there is there, the less energy it takes to move it. So you get more response from the shell when it's lighter. We don't use insulating materials like rubber gaskets or anything like that, which are going to absorb that energy. And then we have the suspension mounting brackets that don't use dampening materials. They use kind of springy materials that return energy to the system.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody go into drums so in a scientific approach so much. What is your background?
Well, I have a degree in industrial design. And then I've worked in kind of some diverse engineering roles. I designed inkjet printers for a while, and food production equipment, and kind of some other crazy stuff. And then worked for Ludwig for about 5 years, where I kind of was applying some of my previous design and engineering knowledge into drums, and kind of really digging into what makes a drum tick.
That's pretty cool. You'd think that more people would kind of go with that route, but it sounds like you guys start with the scientific approach to sound. Do you feel like this addresses a gap in the drum market or a gap in the drum sound market, or how does this approach kind of fill in a gap somewhere?
Well, I guess we want to create a better product in every aspect. So, we're not really reinventing the wheel or creating something new where no other product lives. But we want to address every component of the process, both in the product as well as, in the buying, the purchasing experience of a drum, and just make it better for drummers. It's drum sets. They haven't been, there's always been a few crazy, weird new ones out there, but people don't tend to go that route. You kind of want something that looks like a drum and sounds like a drum. But, if you look at each component individually and focus on how that makes the drum sound, and design everything with the same concept in mind, I believe you get a better end product than kind of what's out there. If you look around the market right now, most of what you see, is using components that were designed, 20, 30, 50, 80 years ago, and kind of Mr. Potato headed together to fit the right price point. But we kind of started from scratch and designed what I believe to be the perfect drum.
That's awesome. And I am a drummer, so I do appreciate this conversation quite a bit. I have talked to other people actually in the past who have found it difficult, and they've actually they brand it as premium drums based on better sound outside of the country. But have you found making them in the country that the market is there, or, is there a problem with setting yourself apart from other brands?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the challenge. There's a lot of brands that have had things going for decades longer than I have. So getting my name out there is something different when I don't have anything like crazy or unique to talk about. It is a challenge to get the word to spread, but we do drum shows and we do social media and stuff like that, and people who experience it and understand what it is that I'm doing differently, the subtle differences that make our drums and our buying experience better. That people really value those things once they understand what it is that we do differently. So, we have strong word of mouth marketing between the people that have bought them and our next customers. And so that's kind of what works really well for us. So just kind of being true to what we're after and, maintaining our high level of, product design quality, actual product quality and customer experience.
That's awesome. All good things this day and age. Everyone's going for the customer experience and the best product you can make, and keep everybody happy that you sell to, because they'll definitely be your best word of mouth customers. So,
absolutely.
So, which of the drums, tom, snare, kick, which have you found to be like the most of a challenge in terms of taking on it, creating them with your approach? How has it been difficult, for one in particular, or are they all kind of been a challenge in their own?
For me, the hardware is a big piece of it. I guess just in terms of between toms, basses, and snare drums, honestly, they all kind of came together at the same time with basically developing the right shell and the right lugs and suspension brackets and stuff like that. So it's kind of when all the pieces come together, the same formula works for toms and snare drums and bass drums. We have a proprietary shell design that allows us to make a really, really thin but rigid shell. And it's the exact same shell design that we use on our snare drums, toms, and bass drums. We don't make them thicker or thinner depending on the drum. We just find that this combination is as light as it's as thin and light as we can make it and still perform really well and reliably as a drum. And it works for, any application that we throw it at.
Cool. Now, I noticed that there's kind of a focus on steel snare drums. Do you do wood drums too, or is everything steel?
Yeah, we do wood snare drums as well. We do in the metal drum world, we do brass drums, aluminum drums, and stainless steel right now, as well as the maple snare drums.
Okay. And of course, all the other drums are primarily wood or a thinner wood.
Right.
Okay.
And just maple shells, but we have a proprietary way that we assemble them and put them together.
That's awesome. So how long does it, because I kind of noticed that for the most part, a lot of them are custom. How long does it take to make a kit or a drum for somebody?
Our lead time is usually 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Generally, it takes 1 to 2 weeks going back and forth with the customer to figure out what it is they actually want. We deal directly with our customers for the most part, so it ends up being a lot of emails just to make sure that we know what sound they're after, and all the little design details that make the drum set custom for the new buyer.
Cool. So, how big is the company? Is it just you at the moment?
Yeah. Yep. It's just me. I do, contract out some finishing work, but, otherwise it's me.
Wow. 3 years. That's gotta be a lot of work for just you. Huh?
Yeah. It's, it's very busy, but my focus is on the design and the customer experience piece of it. So, I spend most of my time working on that, and I've got a very efficient supply chain for the rest of the drum stuff. So it works out very well.
And you mentioned before we started that you're raising a family. You must have a very supportive and understanding family to be doing this by yourself.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, we work well together.
That's good. It won't work well the other way. So
yeah.
Awesome. I have to say that I saw on your website, and I mentioned earlier too, the video of Trey Gray, the drummer for Brooks and Dunn, Reba, Faith Hill, and Jewel. His emotional response to the drums. How did that feel for you, just to kind of see him react that way?
I mean, it was great. Honestly, it's something I get a little bit used to seeing. I bring these drums to drum shows, and people sit down at them for the first time, and they're blown away by how they sound and how they look. And I hear over and over again, like, where have these drums been? How haven't I heard of this? This is amazing. So, there's a lot of confidence boosting there. It's always nice to hear from somebody who's been a working pro for many, many years and knows, he's played everything, knows what drums sound like, knows what he's looking for. And to have him be excited about it was certainly exciting.
Is he one of your first famous drummers, or do you have a small roster already of other people?
I've always kind of avoided the whole endorsing artist kind of approach that's so common in the industry. I just don't think my experience with the previous company I worked at, it just didn't feel honest, and it didn't feel like it was about the design or performance of the drums. It's I don't know. It's a tough thing for me to deal with. He's a guy where, he just ordered a snare drum off my website a year ago, and then emailed me to tell me how much he loved it. And, he had been playing his shows in Vegas with Brooks and Dunn, using that snare drum for a few weeks, and just loved it. And then, we kept talking, and, it turned out he lived not too far from me. So I was like, this is a guy I should be working with. And so it kind of came together that way, which I think is a much more honest approach than me, seeking out guys and trying to give them the best deal on a drum set to try to get them to promote what I'm doing. He came to me because he liked the drums, and it just grew from there. And any of the artists that I work with, which I've got, there's a few guys like that, but they all came about that way. They were customers before they were endorsing artists.
Gotcha. No, I mean, I've come across a lot of other companies that have the same philosophy, where it's not so much about the roster, but it's nice to, kind of know who some of your amateur and professional players are, just to, whether they're for inspiration or to make you feel good, or to, for whatever reason, but not necessarily bragging rights, right?
Right. I mean, in my experience, it's 99% about the relationships that they have with the company, and how good the company that they're working with makes them feel, and if they give them all the stuff they need when they need it, that's really what it's all about. It really, it comes off as these are the only drums I play because this is the sound that I like, but it turns out it really has very little to do with that.
Mm-hmm. So while Trey, is kind of more in the country side of things, do you find that there's a particular genre that resonates with this type of sound, or does it seem pretty universal?
It's surprisingly universal. There's guys in every genre that are looking for drums that just have a more resonant sound. I've been working with Travis Foster, who plays with they call it a doom metal band, Yob. They're awesome. They're really heavy and loud. And then I work with a lot of jazz players as well. So it's kind of something that spans drummers who are just looking for drums that resonate more.
Cool. Now, I've never heard of doom metal before. What's the difference?
You got me. It's you'd have to tune in and listen to Yob, because they're kind of awesome. And actually, I think they kind of reject the term doom metal because it's kind of a weird term anyway. But they're really heavy and kind of dark and sludgy kind of metal.
Gotcha. Okay. Actually, I had heard doom metal, like D-U-N-E. Okay, you said doom metal. Got it.
Yeah, doom.
Okay, that sounds a little bit more descriptive. Okay, I think I could probably follow that one.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So where can people purchase your drums right now? Are they just available on your website, or primarily, do you have some vendors for ones that are pre-made?
Yeah, we are starting to work with some very select dealers that are stocking our drums. We've been selling our parts through dealers for a little while now. So you can find, our strainers and suspension brackets and stuff like that at all the good drum shops all over the country. But most of the drums go through our website and directly through me, which our website is INDeDrum.com, so just INDeDrum.com. And that's where most of the product goes.
Cool. So, since it's only you, I have to ask, and it takes 6 to 8 weeks, how regular, how busy are you? Are you always making more than one order, or how consistent is the work?
Yeah, I have a stack of orders I'm working through at any given time, and just kind of balancing customers and developing new products and, making sure that the orders that we do have get filled in a timely manner.
Awesome. It's probably all you can do at this point. When you get to that point where you might have to add somebody, you're not quite there yet, huh?
Yeah, I go back and forth on it. I kind of like the way things are right now. I think as we develop some new products and kind of pick up the pace a little bit here, we'll look for somebody. But I hesitate to put ads out in the paper to find the right guy. I feel like at some point I'm going to be swamped with work, and the right person's going to fall in my lap. So I'm kind of waiting for that to happen.
There you go. Yeah, everything happens at the right time. So I suppose just wait for it at this point.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, aside from your website, which you've already plugged, what are some of the other places people can find you on, social media or YouTube or?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. We're on Instagram and Facebook as well. Those are our main ways to communicate with with our audience, kind of what we're working on and what we're doing here at INDe. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys go from here. Only 3 years in, that's not a long time, but it sounds like you guys got some good momentum going already, and I can't wait to see where you go from here. So.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having us on, and it's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thank you for listening to Behind the Backline, brought to you by Octave Media, an inbound marketing agency focused on helping music merchants develop an automated solution to increase website sales. You can find Octave Media at www.octave.media. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in iTunes or Google Play Music to learn more about great products and companies in the musical instrument, pro audio, and event technology space, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you thought of this episode. We encourage you to share us with your friends and colleagues via social media, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
guys, Matt here from Behind the Backline. I recently released a free on-demand training called 3 Steps to Drumming Up More Website Sales. During the 9-minute video, you'll learn the secrets to streamline your brand's image and dramatically increase your website sales. If you're a music brand or a retailer and you want to increase your website sales, go to octave.media/drumoffer today. That's octave.media/drumoffer. And thanks for listening to Behind the Backline.